Today's podcast is brought to you by a company who we have been using for years and takes up significant shelf space inside of our own kitchen. Biosteel Sports Nutrition.
It was a product created out of necessity 8 years ago and is trusted by athletes like Connor McDavid, Tyler Seguin, Brooke Henderson, Rosie MacLennan, and Andrew Wiggins.
They're really a leader in sports drinks for everyone from professional athletes to everyday champions.
Understand something, guys. Nothing worth ever having in this world comes easy.
Do what these champions doing if you're going to be a champion.
You control your outcome.
Who am I?
I'm a champion.
What up, champs, and welcome back to a brand new Biosteel breakdown. As always, I'm your host, Adrian, with my co-host,
Sylvie.
and we're breaking it down. That was very succinct and curt. I liked it. Sylvie, we're here.
We're here.
If it's your first time, welcome to the podcast. If you're a longtime listener, welcome back. We do one of these every Friday. Quick little segment. And we got a good one too. I'm excited about this one.
Yeah, of course you are.
What are we talking about?
We're talking about testosterone.
This is primarily for the male listeners, I would say.
And for the female listeners.
I suppose, yeah. Females also release testosterone.
They do.
But at a rate like 1/10 that of men.
Mm-hmm.
So this is for the boys. Should we get into it? Okay. I'm excited about this. This one came about because we were listening to Ben Greenfield talk about how he puts red light on his testicles to improve testosterone production. And one, I had to figure out if that was a real thing or if he was just out there, which he is, and it is a real thing. And then I heard about TJ Dillashaw doing it as well. So it's going around.
So it's got to be cool.
So you guys could... And we're going to talk about natural options for increasing testosterone today.
Let's clarify that.
We're not talking about TRT replacements. We're not talking about any sort of external injections, creams, patches, which is all valid if the situation is present. But we're looking at some ways that you can naturally increase your testosterone. So, what is testosterone? Testosterone is a hormone, essentially an anti-aging hormone, especially with men. And as you approach age 30 and onwards, your testosterone drops at 1% per year, which is fairly significant. And actually, even in men under 30, there's a high rate of low testosterone. There's a high rate of erectile dysfunction. I think there's a couple compounding factors for sure, but it's something worth mentioning. Excuse me. And so in males, testosterone is released from your testicles. In females, it's from ovaries and your adrenal glands. But like we said, kind of like a 10-to-1 ratio. And so as testosterone drops, there's a whole slew of things that occur. So increased body fat, lethargy. It can affect your cognitive functioning. It can affect your mood. It can affect your ability to reproduce. So if you're trying to have a child, it can affect that. And just generally, it's not good for you. Your body needs it. It needs it to fight aging. If you see, they look at men in their 70s, 60s, and 70s, and if you have normal levels of testosterone, you have a 30 to 40% lower chance of dying from any sort of comorbidity. So any disease at all, specifically cardiovascular disease. So that's why it's important. Very
interesting.
Yeah. So 30 to 40%, which is significant. And if it's dropping at 1% a year from 30 onwards, you could be in trouble. Also important to note, and this is something that you could probably talk about more than I could, but testosterone is derived from cholesterol. And so if you're on an extremely low cholesterol diet, it can do really bad things for your hormones, specifically for your testosterone. So it's worth mentioning. I don't know if you want to add on
yes,
that?
Absolutely. I think cholesterol has gotten a really bad rep, and it is an important factor for things like testosterone, especially our hormonal health overall. So I think that's very important to mention. Eggs are not the enemy.
Eggs are not the enemy. We should get a shirt that says that. Yeah. So if you want some more information on the chemical process and how testosterone is broken down and how it goes into your system, you can definitely contact us, and I will send you some text. But for the sake of our breakdown, we're not going to do that. But we are going to talk about 3 things that you can do. Maybe let's call 4, but 3 things that you can do that are going to be significant for naturally increasing your testosterone. And so the first one is sleep enough. And this is funny because we talk about sleep all the time, but testosterone is primarily released at night when you are sleeping. And so if you're not sleeping, you're not releasing testosterone and you're not having it into your blood system and it can't go to all the different systems it needs to and do its job. And so if you you need to put specific emphasis on getting at least 7.5 hours a night, upwards to 9, but at 10 there seems to be a drop off. So if you're sleeping more than 10, there's a drop off in testosterone release, so it gets lower. So it's better to sleep 7 to 9. In that, we want to be in deep REM sleep and not segmented. So having 2 hours waking up, 2 hours waking up, 2 hours waking up is not going to be good for the release of testosterone. So we want to have nice deep REM sleep consistent throughout the night. So they did a couple of studies where they looked at shortened sleep cycles, like restricted sleeping. And so after a week of sleeping for 5 hours a night, there was a 15% drop in people's testosterone. So it's very important. First thing, sleep enough, but not too much. The second thing is to strength train enough. And so in this one, we don't want to overtrain, because that'll cause a decrease in our testosterone levels. We'll get into a fatigue state, our cortisol spike, and our testosterone will decrease, but we want to train enough. So moderate to heavy weights, compound lifts, which means multiple joints, multiple body parts moving all at the same time. And we want to do that with some velocity. So you want to move those weights quickly. And that is the big key. And so 3 to 4 times a week. So a moderate amount of weightlifting, medium to heavy, and with a fairly rapid pace with high velocity on the weights, obviously being safe. And so the idea of accommodating resistance, so as you get stronger, you add more weight, is very important, because it'll boost the testosterone production. As you add more weight, your body will need to create and secrete more testosterone to help you in that movement. And so it will send that muscle back out to your muscles so it can bind and grow. And you'll get the added benefit that you'll build a little bit of muscle and increase your lean mass. Number 2. Number 3, manage stress. This is a huge one. So cortisol, which is your stress hormone that we've talked about a lot, and testosterone compete for the same receptor sites, and they also compete for the same basic substrates that create them. And so coming in from cholesterol. And so if you have too much cortisol in your bloodstream and your cortisol levels are too high, your body will stop producing the same amount of testosterone, because it needs those chemicals to produce your cortisol, and it'll stop binding to the sites. So it won't work on the systems it's supposed to, because cortisol has taken those places. And so that's why it's really, really important. So however you manage that is up to you. We've talked about that at length, stress management. So whether it's meditation, whether it's deep breathing, whether it's soft tissue work, whatever it is, dropping your stress state and dropping your cortisol will help with your testosterone production and then your testosterone binding to receptor sites. So those are the 3 big ones. The other one is diet and supplementation. And I didn't want to get into this because it's your area of expertise and I feel like you could do a much better job. But of course, a whole foods diet, and we're looking at vitamins and supplements that will support it. So we want to have high levels of magnesium. We want to have high levels of zinc, high levels of vitamin C, high levels of vitamin D. But that I thought would be a completely separate topic that we could break down.
Yeah,
foods,
we'll do a
foods
part
and
2.
sups for testosterone. But those are the big 3, guys. You need to sleep, you need to lift some weights, and you need to reduce your stress. And then on top of that, when you get lean, you produce more testosterone. So you don't get lean because you produce more testosterone. When you get lean, your body starts to produce more testosterone, which goes well with all those things: managing your stress, lifting weights, and sleeping enough. That's a wrap. Any other things? That's it. I've rambled long enough. Thank you guys. As always, head over to the website, biosteel.com. Use the code word
Champ Lifestyle, capital C, capital L.
and you can grab yourself 15% off your very next order. Thank you to them, as always, for sponsoring the podcast. And we'll be back next week with a brand new episode.